So delighted to have this great group of panelists with me today to talk about people and empowering the people at the base of the pyramid. Let me quickly introduce to you the panelists on my left here. First is His Excellency Sheikh Abdullah Thani. He's the chairman of the Ooredoo Group. Esther Duflo is next to him. She's the Abdul, Latif, Jameel Professor of Poverty, Alleviation, and Development at MIT. Hikmet Ersek is the president and CEO of Western Union. And finally, Sanjit Bunker Roy is the founder and director of Barefoot College. Please welcome them to the stage. Now, Professor Duflo, let me start with you on this, because we've heard quite a bit about people here at the base of the pyramid, that the 4 billion could be tomorrow's middle class. How has this base changed, and why have policies and programs been successful, and why have some failed?
Thank you very much. I think it's a very good start to start with policy on a panel on business at the bottom of the pyramid. And there have been a great enthusiasm in the last 10, 15 years or so, maybe, for the power both of the business of the poor and of the business of the rich who have products that the poor might want to buy, to play a role in alleviating poverty. And that's right, and that was a good shift in attitude. However, what we are also discovering, maybe in the last couple of years, is that it may have been a bit of a illusion to think that the poor, either as consumer or entrepreneur, can sort it out as businessmen or as client of businesses, and that policy doesn't play a role. I think what we've learned is that in the absence of a good policy framework, both for the businesses of the poor and for the poor as consumers, a great deal of very important objectives don't get accomplished. And in fact, in the absence of the right policy environment, ranging from education to safe water to infrastructure to access to markets, the business of the poor are not particularly productive. And the absence of the right policy environment, essential needs that you might think might be catered by the market, let's say insurance or clean water or things like that, are just not met. And so it's, I think, as a prelude to the rest of the session, where I think we're going to be talking about businesses a lot, it's important to keep in mind, in the background of all of that, there is public action, there is policy needs, there is areas where money will never be made and where we still need to continue to be active.
Well, Sheikh Thani, is that something that you have encountered?
First, let me say good morning to everybody, and I'm happy and delighted to be invited by CGI. Let me just say one thing. You just mentioned Ooredoo, and for most of you who doesn't know what's Ooredoo, our name a year ago were QTEL, Qatar Telecom, and it represents Qatar, my country. Small country, great nation, great ambitious. I have a couple of ladies here sitting with me. Today they are initiating an initiative for the World Cup, which we are hosting on the 2022. So let me start from one thing. I just mentioned a few weeks ago that the number of connection in the world will be 7 billion, or it might surpass the 7 billion. Unfortunately, 3.5 billion hasn't been tapped or touched. Those are the real base of the pyramid. Now, recently we just awarded a license in Myanmar, one of the 2 licenses awarded in Myanmar. We started already fully fledged to set up the network by the mid of next year. Now, there are lots of challenges in the base of the pyramid and in those countries, which is really like Myanmar. It's a huge country, 60 million people, less than 10% penetration, less than 400,000 internet users, 85% outside the electricity grid. It's very challenging. Very challenging. But what we are trying to do is to replicate what we have done in some other countries and do it in Myanmar. I'll give a story, and I'm sure most of you don't like to hear a PR, but hear a real story and a success story. There was a small island in Indonesia, one of the 17,000 islands. It's outside the electricity grid, no mobile phones, no internet, very difficult to find or to hire a teacher to the school. So we approached that island with in-house solution. In weeks, this town each person would like to use to make a call. They have to travel 2 hours to the mainland. So with this solution, we had internet in the school, we had connection to the island, and they started to hire a school, and we are partnering with them. That is the case which I feel so proud. If I drive from my office to my home, I feel proud of it. Now, yesterday, we launched an initiative for Indonesia, for Myanmar, similar to what we did in Indonesia. We launched an initiative, and hold me accountable for it next year and the year after. 30,000 women will be hired by our company as a sales distributor in the next 3 years in Myanmar. I know it's challenging, plus the challenge.
They'll be your mobile retail agent.
Retail agent, plus supporting them in their small entrepreneur business.
Okay. Well, Hikmet, tell me, because you know, much of your company operates outside the United States, and in fact, you interact. You know, your staff on the ground interact with many of the people in some of the poorest areas of the world. Tell me your experience.
Yeah. First of all, let me tell that you can create business in the base of the pyramid, and there's nothing wrong making money with that, because you do create real share value. Probably Western Union is one of the best examples. It's all about perspective, what's the base of the pyramid is. If you are in the US, there is a base of the pyramid in the US also. We at Western Union don't talk about poor, we talk about customers. We talk about giving them the dignity to the customers. Now, if you look at the base, you know, let me ask you a question. The 5th biggest nation worldwide has no flags, has no borders, creates the best economy, grew the last 10 years by 40% on population. It's the nation of migrants. And if you're in the US, or if you are in Europe, or if you are in some developed countries, you see them as the base of the pyramid from the perspective. We see them as our customers, which we give them the financial dignity that a Filipino who left the country, Filipino mom who goes to Qatar, works at the hospital, makes maybe $500–600 a month. Half of the money is sent back home to a small island in Philippines to help her kids to go to school. And to reach that, we also see on the developing countries, on the 200 countries where we are, we have 500,000 locations, and we are not in the main cities. We are in the rural areas. We go and build really in the rural areas locations. Probably one of the most trusted brands worldwide at 500,000 locations is Western Union. So what happens is that you have to reach the people in these rural areas. And we opened locations, 500,000 locations, and it's about 550,000. We have 100,000 ATMs. We have mobile phones. So we send money directly to their needs, customer needs. And that gives them the financial dignity. We don't see that, support. We see that as a financial dignity. And we just finished a survey. 30% of the transactions worldwide, and we do 28 transactions every second, cross-border, every second. 30% of the transactions are done for education purposes. So the mom leaves, the Filipino mom is a great example actually. She suffers, she leaves home, leaves the kids there to give a better life than she has for their kids' educational purposes. And doing that, building that network, understanding the needs of the customers, base of the customer on this side, and understanding the base of the customers on the other side, and connecting that and creating a value for them, for the education, but for us also for the shareholder value. Probably that's hard to do, but it is doable.
Well, many companies have tried and failed. there have been very big failures.
We failed also in many things. So, you obviously, I'm trying to innovate constantly. We failed in many new products. We failed in many places which we tried to sit in our corner offices as CEOs and develop products without understanding the customer needs. And we think that's a great idea. We did commitments, not here at CGI, but different things, and we failed. One of the things, we were talking with Esther, and I was talking before the panel actually, on mobile money. And there has been always a case that, Western Union is dead, cash won't use anymore. So we tried that in many countries. The only country it works today is Kenya. 30% of our transactions from UK to Kenya are on a mobile wallet. But rest of the places which we tried, in Philippines, in Indonesia, it didn't work because of the needs of the customer didn't fit in with our vision. And so we had to pull out sometimes. However, I believe it's also the future. I think the people are moving to mobile money. The people will use mobile money, but it's a step-by-step approach.
Well, Bunker, let me bring you in on this conversation because you've trained thousands of women, and in particular older women, solar grandmas you've trained in at your Barefoot College. Why that area? Why that segment?
I'd like to come back to this whole abused words of base of the pyramid. I don't think people understand how poor the base of the pyramid is, and how deprived and how neglected and how exploited the base of the pyramid is. The solution is not only mobile phones. There is so much hardship that these women and men and children face, which cannot be simplified by saying they are part of a base of a pyramid. You have women walking for 10 kilometers for drinking water. You have people who you live in darkness. We went to Ladakh and we solar electrified the first village in Ladakh. And we asked the woman, what is the benefit of solar that you've got in Ladakh? -40 outside. And she looked at us and said, it's the first time I can see my husband's face in winter. Can you imagine, for 6 months at -40, living on only a candle? Now, how do we get to these people? And I have a feeling, and I'm going to be very provocative here, that it's not business that's going to solve the base of the pyramid. It's a partnership. You have to look at these people as human beings, and you have to look at these people as someone who can share. They have tremendous knowledge and skills which we have totally ignored. Hundreds of years ago, when there was no doctor, no engineer, no teacher, what did these communities do? They had such tremendous knowledge and skills which are now being devalued. How do we improve the capacity and competence of these people living on the base, really the base of the pyramid, less than 50 cents a day? India had a survey done of the unorganized sector, and this is startling. They said 800 million people in India live on less than 20 rupees a day. That's less than 50 cents. Now, how do you get to these people? The only way you can do that is to develop the capacity and competence of people who have the knowledge and skills and build on them. But we are replacing them. We are thinking that those indigenous institutions are not worth looking at. It's a disaster. We have to look at it as a partnership. And we have to reduce the dependency of skills from outside on these people. And that's the only way you can develop the base of the pyramid, I'm sorry to say.
So I wanted to give one example of one successful example, I think, of this kind of partnerships. The microfinance organizations are often credited for going to the base of the pyramid, but several years ago, BRAC in Bangladesh, That's the big competitor for Grameen, if you've heard of Grameen. BRAC realized that they were not reaching the base of the pyramid because the people who are really poor in the villages were not coming forward to get microcredit. The widows, the women whose husband is incapacitated or drunk or for some reason not able to be a productive partner of their business. That just either they were not coming forward or the credit officers from the microcredit organization were pushing them away, thinking that they didn't have capacity for repayment. So BRAC decided that they were going to go out and reach those guys because there was power in that in this group of people, and there was a possibility of lifting them up to put them at a stage where they could become an intrinsic part of the economy of their village and, incidentally, the microcredit movement potentially. So they started a program that they initially called the Targeting the Ultra Poor program, which is not going to earn them any money ever because it's a grant program. They give people a grant, plus, which is usually a cow or an asset to start a business or maybe a solar panel or an asset. Then they give people a lot of training and hand-holding so that they can get this started. And then they let it roll. And this program has been evaluated with very rigorous randomized control trials, not only in Bangladesh, but in replication of it in now 7 or 8 countries in the world, not only in South Asia, but also everywhere in the world. Wow. And everywhere it's been found to be, I think, one of the most successful anti-poverty programs I've seen in terms of raising people's consumption level, food security, sense of dignity, sense of belonging, that has been evaluated. And this is something where I think you could call it really a successful partnership.
All right, so that is one, that sounds like one successful partnership, which is to Bunker's point. But I want to hear from the business people on this panel what Bunker just said, because it is more than about wiring up and connecting the world's poor, and it's more than about helping them facilitate exchanges, cash exchanges. It's a lot more than that. What's your response?
Well, I totally agree with him. It's not only the wiring people that will solve the problem. It has to have collaboration between the government, between the social society, between the app developers. Because also, okay, again, you will give him an iPhone, but without an applications to his wants and needs, that's no good. So let me just again turn to Esther, and she just mentioned something truly right, and I've seen it in Indonesia. The people in the base of the pyramid, yes, they are shy to come in and ask for help or support, but that does not mean we do not approach them. I'll tell you a short story, which I've seen it in Indonesia. A young lady married, at a small age. Then she started a small business selling in the town. Selling, cold drinks and chocolates and candies to the kids. A guy from the company who works in the mobile money and in the business, giving agents, supporting the agents, he approached this girl and she told him, "Can I sell your products?" Then she started with selling products. She used to live on $20 a month. After a couple of months, she approached the same guy, asking him, "Can I go into your mobile money and bring the ladies around me in the town so that they can receive money from abroad? They can open a saving account?" And what we did, we trained this young girl on an iPad. And she started for a couple of weeks training. And by the end of the 2 weeks training, she became not only a sales agent, but she became like a small bank in the city. Now, she is living on more than $250 a month. That is the base of the pyramid, which we need to go into and to tap into.
I think, Mr. Roy, I believe it's all about perspective, and I believe also that Western Union is one of your, in your village, as you mentioned before, it's really reaching out to the customer, to be there, reaching out to them. So the challenge for the business people like me is creating the real share value and serving the customers, and we know that. But how do you do that? You really have to put things in perspective. Four-thirds of the global economy is not done at the Wall Street. So it's time to look over the Wall Street. Although I am a New York Stock Exchange-based company, shareholder-driven company, it's time to look over the wall, actually. It's done on the streets of Mumbai. It's done on the rural areas. It's the economic opportunity is there. And sometimes we really define as business people, these people as poor people, not as an opportunity. In that moment, if we see as a, get out of that. If in that moment we see this base of the pyramid is an opportunity for us, we will be more focused on that part. And that drives us as a business people. That drives us sharing the value with them and creating the opportunity with them.
Let me just interrupt for a moment. Bunker, is there anything wrong with that?
I'll answer. Let him finish.
Okay.
No,
Can I say one thing?
I think
it's one thing that's worth saying, because I think what he's saying, maybe I should put words into it. I think what he's saying is that the vast majority of the base of the pyramid is not a client of Western Union, because to start with, a vast majority of the real base of the pyramid, they don't have the capacity, either the education or the credit or the ability to send a migrant, not let alone to the UK, but they can't send someone to the city during the starving season. So I think that's what he is referring to some extent.
I'm saying something much more serious than that.
I think that's pretty serious.
Let me give you an example. If you went to the base of the pyramid and asked what they did for drinking water, they would say they would collect rainwater. My grandfather collected rainwater, I will collect rainwater. What happened 50 years ago? You had this engineer coming onto the scene and said, why are you collecting rainwater? This is so stupid. Take the water out of the ground. So it became a business to take water out of the ground, put in hand pumps, deep well hand pumps, and all the traditional wells went dry. So what did they do? You had a source, you had a business of taking water out of the ground instead of the less expensive, low-cost, community-based solution of collecting rainwater. Now, what is the harm of collecting rainwater? Even in California, they say it's illegal to collect rainwater. I can't understand.
Even in Colorado.
Why? Do they say rainwater is government property or what? No, you cannot understand the perception here. Rainwater is free, and in the West and in the Middle East, Sheikh, you will agree with me that rainwater is the most commonsensical way of collecting water. But no one is doing that. You see UNICEF taking deep well hand pumps, Why? Why aren't you listening to the solutions of the people who've been doing it for hundreds of years? And
is it as efficient?
Very, very efficient. I live in a village where sometimes it does not rain for 5 years. But when it rains, if it rains, should it rain, we collect 100 million liters of water. It's the most inexpensive way of doing it. Creating jobs, using traditional knowledge, using traditional skills. You don't need a drilling rig to do that. So the perception of how you reach the base of the pyramid has to change. The mindset has to change. How do you reduce the dependency of skills from outside and develop the skills from within? That's where the grandmothers came in. Extraordinary women who didn't know anything, didn't know how to read and write, and yet they could pick up the most sophisticated 21st technology skills as if they've been doing it all their lives. I went to a country which should remain nameless. I said, look, I have 20 pieces of solar lanterns here on this table and 20 pieces of a solar lantern on that table. Bring the head of your department and let him put that solar lantern together. He said, I'm sorry, he won't be able to do it. But the grandmother did it in half an hour. Now, who would you like? Who is the man or the woman who will be best for treating or actually doing something on the base of the pyramid? Now, these are perceptions and mindsets that have to change if you want to get to the base of the pyramid, and I think business is not the answer.
I'm not allowed to collect rainwater in my country also.
Well, we want to be part of it. I mean, it's business, maybe not the answer. Maybe we have to understand the customers. I totally agree. We are in the same page here. I think we have to really, you can't come from business and create products for them without understanding rainwater, how to collect the rainwater. So I agree on that. But partnership, I'm coming back to the partnership. We have to be a part of it. We have to be the part of the society. We can't say business don't understand or, and only they understand. I think if you involve create that environment, that's the solution, I believe.
May I just interrupt? If there were anyone as visionary as him who represents Western Union at the village level, I will agree. But the people who represent these very large companies at the bottom, at the base of the pyramid, are not as visionary, as charitable, as...
What's the biggest problem that you have noticed time and again?
When you look from the bottom up, you find people representing some of these big companies who are not so charitable, who are not less exploitative, and you wonder how they can represent the Western Union. I'm not saying anything against the Western Union. I'm just saying that there are people on the ground who need a severe, hard sensitization, educational process on how to deal with the poor people. They don't have that sensitivity today.
But there must be a way, though, Bunker, let me just take the other side of it. There must be a way, though, to introduce and have business, though, join in on the opportunity and join in on the cause of helping people at the base of the pyramid, rather than say the answer is not business.
No. I'm saying when you're talking about business, at least I look at it as professionalism, as someone who can make something more effective, as providing a service which will be at least comparatively low cost. I'm thinking of that point of view. I'm not thinking of the profit margin. I don't think it is ethical to make money on the poor. I don't think it is. I think you should be able to carry the poor along with you as equal partners. The equality is a very big word, and sometimes it is misused, and sometimes you cannot do it because people don't have that mindset to be able to treat people as equals. Can you imagine treating an illiterate grandmother as an equal? Until she's a solar engineer, you'll never treat her as an equal. So you have to be able to give the skill to be able to show that she is as good or even better than any man as a solar engineer.
That's getting very interesting now. So I think, I just tell you why I am so dedicated on the understanding the needs. My father is 90 years old. He lives in Turkey. And, and he lives alone, and he has to pick up the money. And I do send money to him in a rural area, and he picks up the money immediately to pay his medicine. And one of the things where, as I started Western Union, we had only 70 locations in Turkey. Now we have about 3,000. My father told me that I have to drive every time 10 kilometers to pick up the money. So that drove me, and there are millions of people like that which need that. So if you don't involve the business, if we won't make money, we won't have 500,000 locations. We won't reach out to these people. I think the business has to be a part of the society. The business is motivated by, I agree, by making money. And I think it's all about perspective. The grandmother is also a customer like my father, who is 90 years old, who picks up the money, uses to buy a medicine for his eyes. So I think creating that part and also driving the shareholder value, which is a shared value, it's the solution.
That they can work in tandem. Okay, Sheikh Thani, do you want to chime in on this? I mean, that was quite a strong statement, Bunker, that you said that you thought it was unethical.
I did say I was going to be provocative.
Which I'm glad that it's unethical for business to make money on the poor.
Well, I believe the base of the pyramid is a sort of a business for the companies, regardless if they intend to do it or not. It just comes by itself. The people you touch into in remote areas, in underserved community, out of the reach and touch of everybody, they have needs and wants. Whenever you just tailor any business to their needs, I think you are going to make business, you are making profit, and in the same time, you are creating an economic solution for the poor people.
So that's a partnership. Go ahead.
I think I can be the two-armed academic, too armed person that all economists are supposed to be on the one hand. On the other hand, I think it's perfectly ethical to make money working with the poor. I think it would be unethical making money off the poor, which is a slightly different statement. But there are two limits to that. One is it would be unethical if we forgot the rest of the needs that can't or won't be or for the moment are not served by the businesses. And we also have to keep in mind that the regulatory framework is vastly different in poor countries. I think Banker alluded to the power that people representing big corporations can have in villages, which may or may not be properly controlled by the hierarchy or by the institutional environment. And this is when it can become, in instances, the behavior of some people can become unethical at times, and it's worth considering what is the policy framework that is needed in order to keep those excesses in checks.
May I? The partnership model that I'm talking about is involving the whole community in decision-making. The whole community in a transparent, accountable process in decision-making where every family is a part of that decision. It cannot be, with due respects to business, it cannot be that a handful of people in a community decide for the whole community. It has to be accountable, and it has to be, what we call in India a social audit. In front of the whole community, you decide what you want to do and share with them and be human about it. And if you are wrong, and if you've done something wrong, say it. Confess it. I think they respect the communities at the base of the pyramid much more when people who are from a different income level come and share and sit down with them and treat them as humans. It makes a world of a difference. Even if you are going to do business with them, I think they must be very clear what is happening in front of them. But we are very secretive. Unfortunately, in business, we don't share the information that you have. And you hear from a third source what this company or this agency is doing. That is not going to get you closer to the base of the pyramid. And I think accountability, transparency in business at the lowest level at the bottom of the pyramid is missing. And it has to be done. That is something that is vital if you want to get to the poorest of the poor, living on less than $1 a day.
Okay, I know I'm going to have to wrap this panel up, but just a quick question then, Bunker, is what would your advice be then to businesses who want to reach the hardest to reach people? What would your advice be to them, companies?
I think they should, whoever they're working with, whichever community they're working with, have an open meeting with them and share what you're doing as part of the business with them. It must not be secretive today. And I think people have to make an effort to reach them face to face and tell them what their business is and what they want to do, and have a dialogue and a discussion. That is totally missing on the business community today. They take it for granted that whatever they're doing is something for the good of the community. Not true.
I think we are saying the same thing. If I don't share the needs and don't understand the needs and don't understand the business model, from business side, we won't make business because they just don't use you. You just have to adapt your products, your profitability with the customers together. I 100% agree on that. I think that goes also to the other side. You can't blame the business saying that you guys are not sharing. We do share it. We do try to understand it. Sometimes we fail, as I gave examples, but most of the time we share the ideas, we understand them to be successful, to meet their needs. Otherwise, they won't use us.